Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another meal prep video. I've got an awesome fall themed meal prep video for you today. We are going to be making a broccoli salad as well as a Mediterranean chicken kale salad, which turned out delicious. I'm going to be sharing some instant pot chili as well as some pumpkin spice cake bites. And then last but not least, probably the best recipe in this particular video is the raspberry shortbread tart. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to prep are these pumpkin spice no-bake cake bites. This recipe showed up in my inbox this week from Minimalist Baker, and I was like, oh yes, I have to make this. So these are the ingredients you'll need: some pureed pumpkin, some dates. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups of walnuts. I'm not sure that I have enough, so if I don't, I'm gonna make up for it with pecans, some rolled oats, some cinnamon, and then the recipe calls for like a mixture of like allspice, clove, nutmeg, that kind of thing, but all of that stuff is in this pumpkin pie spice, so I'm just going to go ahead and use a combination of those, some vanilla, almond flour, and some salt. So the first thing that I did was measure my dates out into a container, and I'm just soaking those in some really hot water for about 10 to 15 minutes just until they soften up, and that will just help for the food processor to kind of puree them up a little bit easier. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is put my dates into my food processor. I mostly drained all of the water off. I was going to say also, if you have dates that have pits in them, make sure that you also soak them and take the pits out first, obviously. All right, so I'm just gonna put the lid on this and process these until they're smooth. All right, so that looks pretty good, and this recipe is pretty simple. Then you just add all of the rest of the ingredients. So I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of almond flour, 1.5 cups of walnuts. Actually, I think I actually have enough. 3/4 cup of rolled oats. If you're doing gluten-free, just make sure you get gluten-free oats. 2 tablespoons of pumpkin puree. And then I have all my spices and my salt in this bowl. And I'm gonna add just about 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, if I can get it open. Okay, and then we're just gonna process this until it's smooth. All right, this recipe gave me a hard time. So I did have to add several tablespoons of water and a little bit more pumpkin to this because it would not process. Like, it just kept getting stuck. It was too dry. So the next step is to then taste it, which I did, and I added a little bit more salt. If you want to add more spices, you can. And then we're gonna scoop this out onto a tray, roll them into balls, and refrigerate them. Okay, so I've got a baking tray here, and Connor's gonna help me. This is a little
ice cream scoop.
Well, actually, I think they call this a cookie scoop. So you just see how you just get enough like that. Don't overfill it, just put it up to the level like that, and then pop it out on the sheet. And then we're gonna put them in the fridge, and then after they're cold, we'll roll them into balls. All right, so shout out to Connor for helping me with that with that task. So we rolled all these up. I'm not gonna count them because they're very unevenly spaced, but I'm gonna pop these in the refrigerator, and then when they are firm, we'll roll them into balls. And there's also a recipe for glaze for them that I think I'm gonna modify a little bit. All right, so here we are back at these pumpkin spice cake protein bites. I have to tell you guys, these did not really work out all that well. I'm gonna try to salvage them. I hate when that happens because I don't like sharing recipes with you guys that don't work all that well, but I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, this turned out great, when it really didn't. So these have been in the fridge for probably 12 hours at this point, and they're still a little stickier than I would like them to be. Now, I think that's because I had to add extra pumpkin and liquid to get the mixture to come together in the food processor, so it just isn't working all that well. So what I'm gonna do to try to salvage this is to take some of these pecans that I've chopped up really finely and roll them in there. I'm not gonna coat them totally, just enough so that they're not super like sticky. And then I'm gonna place them on this plate, and I have a glaze that I made with Swerve powdered sugar. Let me show you the package. This is what the package looks like. It's basically a powdered sugar replacement that's sugar-free. So I just mix this with a little bit of water, and I think I'm gonna drizzle these over the top. So I'm just gonna roll these in the pecans, and then we'll drizzle them, and I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, so here are the pumpkin spice bites after I rolled them in the nuts. So I'm just gonna drizzle some of this over the top, and then I am gonna taste one and tell you guys how they taste, because who knows, they might, you know, just be so delicious that it's worth the hassle, right? All right. I mean, they look really good. So here's my verdict on these. They are made like at least 10 times better with the addition of the pecans and the glaze on the top. To me, what they taste like is like a pumpkin pie filling with like a nut crust and then the sweet glaze on the top. So if you are a big pumpkin pie fan and you're looking for something with like less sugar, I would definitely try these. I don't know that I will be making them again, because I feel like I could get the same type of feeling with either like a healthier pumpkin pie or like a pumpkin bar or pumpkin bread or something like that, but it never hurts to try, right? So if you guys try this, let me know. Again, I will link the recipe down below, but I am gonna store these in the fridge, and we probably won't get them all eaten right away, so I'll put some of them in the freezer, but at least we'll have these for a little healthy sweet treat for the next couple weeks. The next thing I'm gonna show you guys is an easy broccoli salad. Now, I have made this before on my channel in more of a homemade fashion, but today I have time to do the shortcut method, so that's what I'm sharing with you. Both are delicious. If I have the time, I make the dressing from scratch, but like I said, we're gonna improvise today. So I have some broccoli. This has already been washed and it was just in my fridge, and I knew I had all the ingredients for this, so I thought we'd go ahead and make it. I do like to put cubed cheddar cheese in mine. I don't have any blocks of cheddar cheese right now, so we're gonna use cheese sticks, works just as well. I have some bacon bits. Again, you can cut, you know, cook fresh bacon if you want, if you have the time. Some ranch dressing, Hidden Valley, only the best. This is actually always how I used to make this salad, is just with regular ranch dressing. The homemade is good too, like I said. I have some cranberries. You can also use raisins, and then some sunflower seeds. You can use walnuts or any other type of nuts, and then some salt and pepper. So the thing I think is one of the keys to this recipe is making sure that your broccoli is cut into small enough florets, because what you're gonna end up doing is mixing this all together and then just kind of letting it marinate in the fridge. And if your broccoli is too large, it will just stay really, really crunchy, which is fine. It's just like harder to eat that way. So I prefer to kind of cut it a little bit smaller. I think I've seen some recipes where like the broccoli is blanched. I personally don't think that's necessary, but to each their own. I haven't made this for a long time. I was thinking, you know, I really think that Connor would like this, because you guys know he loves the Valley Ranch. He loves to dip his cucumbers in ranch. And if I buy like any type of other ranch, he's like, is this ranch from the Valley? I'll be like, no, it's Kraft or whatever it is. He's like, ugh, I like the one from the Valley. This is a really good recipe to take to like get-togethers too. If you find yourself in that situation, it seems to go over pretty well. And the good thing is too, is that you can make it the day ahead, because it holds up really well in the fridge, since the broccoli is such like a hearty vegetable. All right, so I've got my broccoli chopped up. I also really just love making this for meal prep, because it's super easy and it's really good, and it lasts, you know, kind of all week in the fridge. Okay, I'm gonna sprinkle some bacon bits in there. Just measure with your heart for this recipe. Another thing I will say about the cheese component of this particular recipe is that I have used shredded cheese before, and I really don't recommend that. I think that if you use shredded cheese, it gets like soggy in the salad faster. So that would just be my recommendation. I'm gonna add some sunflower seeds and some craisins. I like craisins in mine. You don't have to add them if you don't want to. I don't even know if I'll eat this. I don't know that it would be a good choice with my braces. I don't know, I could probably do it. Adam really likes this though, so he'll probably end up taking it to work. Okay, so for the dressing part, I would just start with like a liberal squeeze and then go ahead and toss it and see how it looks. And if it looks dry, then go ahead and add some more. All right, I'm gonna add some salt and pepper. I probably should have had a bigger bowl. Okay, I'm just gonna add maybe a little bit more, not much. The broccoli will soak a little bit of the dressing up, obviously, so you just wanna keep that in mind. All right, so I was trying to figure out what containers I was gonna use to pack this in, and I remembered that I had these in the cupboards, so that's what I'm gonna use. I do like the Rubbermaid Clearview containers. I think they actually, okay, they're about 1 1/3 cups each. This recipe also looks really pretty packed in mason jars, like the 8-ounce ones. It's kind of a pain, like to get everything like funneled in there. So I'm not gonna mess with that today, but just know that you can do that, and it does look really pretty. All right, so here's my broccoli salad all packed up. So I'm gonna put the lid on these, stick them in the fridge. We have just a little bit left in the bowl there that didn't fit, but that's fine. Someone will have that for a snack tonight. But let me know if you guys have had this salad before or if you've made it. So like I said, it's definitely super easy to put together, really delicious, and I would definitely recommend it. I'll find a couple different recipes down below and link those. I'll try to find the one that has the homemade dressing as well as another one with prepared dressing, just so you guys have something to reference. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to meal prep is actually from my Green Chef box this week. Thank you to them for sponsoring today's meal prep video. You guys know I've worked with Green Chef for quite a long time. I love their meal kits. They are a USDA certified organic company, and they provide a variety of different meal plans for different lifestyles. They have keto, paleo, vegan, or even if you're just interested in a more balanced diet. These are the 3 meals that I got this week. So an Italian sausage and creamy quote rice, which is actually a cauliflower rice. I get the paleo box, and then it also came with a sesame ginger beef patties, which I'm super looking forward to having, but I think we're gonna have that for dinner one night. So this is the recipe I'm gonna be sharing with you guys today for meal prep. I thought this would be really good for lunches this week. This is the Mediterranean chicken salad with kale, squash, and lemon aioli, which looks delicious. So I went ahead and took my chicken out of the bag and rinsed that off, dried it, and I'm gonna be seasoning that. I also washed my kale, so that was ready to go. But if you guys have never tried Green Chef, they're really great for meals during the week, but I also really like using their service for meal prep. You guys know that I work from home now, and it's really awesome to be able to prep these meals so that I can have them during the week. There's always like unique flavors and sauces that, you know, I might not think of on my own. You guys can see that everything comes pre-measured and perfectly portioned, and a lot of the stuff is even prepped, so it's ready to go. They have high quality ingredients, and their recipe cards are really high quality and actually super easy to follow. They have step-by-step instructions. If we end up really liking the recipe, I'll actually save this, 3-hole punch it, and put it in my binder so that we can have it again. But if you guys want to try Green Chef, they are offering an awesome deal to my viewers. There will be a link in the description box below, but it is greenchef.us/JenChapin100, and you guys will get $100 off across your first 4 Green Chef boxes, plus free shipping on your first box. So once again, that's greenchef.us/JenChapin100 to get your discount. So make sure you check out that link below. All right, so here's my chicken all seasoned up. The only thing you have to add when you get these meal kits is just salt, pepper, and olive oil. Everything else is included. So this is seasoned. I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside until it is time to cook it. Okay, so like I said, I did go ahead and wash the kale, so I'm just gonna spin that dry. One tip I do have for if you're working with kale is that sometimes when you get it from the store, it can be like a little bit limp just because it isn't quite, you know, hydrated because it's been in packaging. So if you just soak it in cold water for maybe about 10 to 15 minutes, you can see that it gets nice and hydrated and crispy again. So we love that. I've already taken the stems out also, which is really important. You don't want to eat those. I guess you could eat them if you really wanted to. They're super hard to chew up. I have used them in cooked dishes before, but you just kind of have to cut them super small. So this is going to be a salad, and you guys know that I got braces put on about a month ago. So when I eat salads, I need everything chopped up fairly small. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop this kind of into just bite-sized pieces. You could leave them larger if you wanted to. The reason I thought I would prep this particular meal out of the box was because kale is, I always think of kale as like a fall salad green. I know it's available year round, but just because it's so hearty, it can really stand up to dressings in the fridge, even if you pre-dress the salad. All right, so I've got a bowl here, and I'm gonna go ahead and transfer the kale to there. And we're actually gonna put some of the dressing on this ahead of time. So I'm gonna use one of the dressing packets now to dress the kale with, and then the other I'll just include on the side when I, you know, make up my meal prep containers. This is a dairy-free lemon aioli. You guys know that I've been eating mostly paleo for, I don't know, I'd say the last probably about 6 or 8 weeks now, and I have lost some weight, and when I do eat this way, I feel a lot better. I'm not super strict about it, especially like if we go out somewhere or on the weekends and stuff like that, but I love that Green Chef has paleo boxes because you don't even have to think about it, you just know that everything is compliant and it's always super delicious. Okay, so I'm gonna season this lightly with salt and pepper. It smells really, really good. Give this a toss, and then I'm gonna set this aside. All right, so I've got a saute pan here, just like a medium one. I'm gonna add some olive oil to the bottom of this, and then I'm gonna chop up my zucchini and the shallots and get that added to the pan. I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut these into cubes because that I think will be easiest to eat in the salad, but that is definitely up to you. All right, my veggies are all chopped up, so I'm just gonna season these, salt and pepper, and then I am gonna saute these over medium heat until they're just tender. All right, so I'm sauteing my chicken in some olive oil, and I really like using a stainless steel skillet to cook chicken breast in because it really gets some good color on the outside of it. So that will finish cooking, and then I'm still working on the zucchini and the shallots. All right, so I've got one of my cutting boards here because probably gonna make a little bit of a mess. We're gonna cut up, or chop up rather, the capers and the almonds together. This is gonna be the gremolata. Okay, so I've got my shallots and my zucchini all cooked up, so I'm gonna go ahead and add those in with the kale and give that another toss. All right, so I don't think I've ever made a gremolata before. Maybe I have. But either way, this is the pan I used to cook the chicken in. So I just sauteed the capers and the red peppers and the almonds in that. And then the directions say to add the vinegar. And then we're gonna add some olive oil too. So it's kind of like a dressing. Then we'll season this with salt and pepper, and then this will go over top of the chicken. All right, so the last step that we are going to do before we assemble our salads is to cut up our chicken. And I honestly, whenever I meal prep chicken breast, I always pre-cut them up before I put them in the fridge or do whatever I'm gonna do with them, because I always try to think about how I'm going to eat the item, you know, when it comes time for lunch or whatever. And especially if you are going to work, it is very hard to saw up a chicken breast while you're sitting at your desk. So I would recommend always pre-slicing everything first. You guys like my giant fork? All my regular forks are in the dishwasher. The other thing I was gonna say is if you sear your chicken breast at like pretty high heat and then let them rest for at least like 10 minutes, you will have like juicy chicken. So don't overcook it because it will keep cooking as it sits. All right, so I've got my meal prep containers here. I'm just gonna show you guys two because you get the idea, but I am gonna make 4 of them. So first thing that I'm gonna do is put in a serving of the kale with the zucchini and dressing and shallot, and then I'll get about 1 of the chicken breasts in here, and then a good spoonful of this gremolata. By the way, I did taste all of these things together in a bite because I wanted to tell you guys how it was, and it is freaking delicious. I don't even care that it's like paleo, vegan, keto, whatever tastes good is what I care about. I mean, it's a bonus that it's paleo, obviously. All right, and I'll just store this aioli separately in the fridge, and then when it comes time, I can drizzle a little bit more over there. But that is my Mediterranean chicken salad meal prep for the week. Thank you again, Green Chef, for sponsoring. You guys check this out. Make sure that you check out that link in the description box to get your discount. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna meal prep is some chili. So you guys saw me make in my last fall crock pot video, I made a white chicken chili, which was really good, but my family, fortunately, likes the regular traditional chili much much better. They weren't that enamored with the white chicken chili. So I'm gonna go ahead and cook some chili this week because it is a great thing to meal prep and have ready for a weeknight. So I'm gonna cook it in my Instant Pot. I've just got 2 pounds of ground beef in here that I am sauteing up. And then along with that, basically I just go through my pantry and I pull anything out that I have on hand that will work in it. So I have a couple cans of pinto beans, some fire roasted diced tomatoes, a couple cans of San Marzano tomatoes, which I'll have to puree those if I'm going to use them, tomato sauce, and then a can of Aldi brand Rotel. I have some tomato paste I need to get used up too, so I might use that. I also end up adding a little bit of water to it to thin it out a little bit, a couple jalapenos, and then whatever seasonings you like in your chili. I have chili powder, onion powder, ground coriander, and ground cumin. Sometimes I do chopped onion, but I'm not going to tonight. My kids don't prefer that. And then salt and pepper. So I'm just gonna brown this up and then start chopping up my jalapeno. Okay, so I am gonna add maybe a couple of cloves, I don't know, 3 cloves of garlic to this, and then some of my chopped jalapeno. This is 2 really small jalapenos chopped up. If I was using a bigger one, I probably would have only used 1, but I did take the seeds out. Someone asked me the other day when I use garlic paste versus minced garlic versus fresh garlic. I really don't have a rhyme or reason for it. I've actually never purchased the minced garlic before. I've only purchased this garlic paste and used fresh garlic. So normally it just depends on if I feel like I have time to peel garlic and put it through my garlic press. I also added some salt and pepper to the beef. Now this is beef from a local farmer that we get a half a cow from every couple of years. And so this ends up being like 90% lean ground beef, so I normally don't have to drain it. All right, so the beef is done. I'm gonna go ahead and add some of the spices just so they can kind of toast up a little bit. I don't really measure when I make chili. If you are not accustomed to making chili on your own, what I would recommend doing is finding a recipe. I think I actually have one in my cookbook, or you can find the recipe online. Make it the first time as the recipe directs, and then, you know, adjust it to your taste. And the more and more you make it, the more you will not have to use a recipe, and you can just make it according to your taste. And you always need more chili powder than you think you're going to. So I don't know, I'm gonna add that's probably about 3 to 4 tablespoons. I always end up having to add more. Okay, so for the tomato sauce and tomatoes, I have 1 can of these fire roasted diced tomatoes, 1 can of tomato sauce. I'm gonna put 1 can of water in from that tomato sauce. Some people like a really thick chili. I like it more like a soup, so there's a tiny little can of tomato sauce. Like I said, I just use what I have on hand. Okay, and then this is a can of Rotel. Well, it's the Aldi brand of Rotel. I'm gonna stir this up. The good thing too about making chili in the Instant Pot, especially like for meal prep, is that you can let it cool and take the insert out and then just refrigerate this right in your fridge with the lid on it. And then when you're ready to, you know, heat it up later in the week, you can do that, or you can portion it out and freeze it right away, depending on what you want to do. All right, so this is 2 cans of pinto beans that I drained, but I didn't rinse them. Some people don't drain their beans when they make chili. I do drain them, but I don't rinse them just because there is some of that, you know, canning liquid left on the beans, and it does help it thicken a little bit. So I do feel like I need more tomatoes. So I'm gonna go ahead and puree these 2 cans of tomatoes, and I'll use my immersion blender and then I'll add those. All right, so here's can 2 of 2 of the tomatoes I pureed. Super quick and easy. So here is the chili. I feel like this is sort of the thickness that I like it. It's not quite, you know, it's not super soupy, but it's not like super thin either. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna give this like a little bit of taste because I feel like it's gonna need more chili powder. Yeah, it does for sure. Tomatoes are super bland on their own, obviously. Tomato sauce. It's got a good spice level though. I'm gonna add some more salt. And you can add more too after it's done cooking. I just like to try to get it as close to seasoned as I can before I cook it. All right, I'm gonna add just a little bit more chili powder. Okay, I'm also gonna add a little bit more cumin. Okay, so this is all done for now. So what I'm gonna do is put the lid on this, set it to sealing, and then cancel. I usually use bean/chili, and that puts it on high pressure for 30 minutes. But if you are following a different recipe, use whatever. I think it's pretty hard to screw chili up in an Instant Pot. Okay, so the chili is done. It turned out really, really good. The only thing I did after I took the lid off was I tasted it I added a little bit more salt. So I wanted to show you guys something like specifically for meal prep, but these are called super cubes and they have them on Amazon. I can link them down below, but essentially it helps you portion out things and freeze them. And then what you can do is just pop them out one by one as you need them. They also come with like this plastic lid so you can stack them one on top of the other. So I just put some in here. I'm gonna freeze that. I'm gonna refrigerate the rest of it. And I'm also gonna have a bowl, which is right here, with some corn chips and some cheese and some cilantro. All right, so the next recipe that we're gonna prep is more of a dessert recipe, but I wanted to make this because I was cleaning out my pantry and I found that I had a couple of jars of jam in there that I kind of wanna go through. So this one is a seedless raspberry jam. So I looked online for recipes, including jams, and I found this raspberry jam shortbread tart. I will link the recipe down below, but I like the idea of it because it uses a combination of regular flour and almond flour. And I'm actually going to omit the regular white sugar and substitute this baking sugar alternative by King Arthur, sort of like a keto friendly sweetener, to make it a little bit lower in sugar. So I have that along with some salt, the raspberry jam, some almond flour, some all-purpose flour. I have 8 ounces of butter that has been softened. I'm gonna use a tart pan, which this is a Wilton tart pan. I can't remember where I got this one, but I can link it down below. And then the recipe just calls for vanilla extract, but I think I really like the idea of adding almond extract as well. So I'm gonna add a little bit of that too. I thought this would be a good fall recipe too because it uses jam instead of fresh fruit. And I know always when I'm going into fall, I feel like I wanna try and use up stuff that's in my pantry. I don't know why I associate fall with that. But anyway, this baking sugar is basically, or this baking substitute is measured 1 for 1, just like regular sugar. So I'm gonna add a cup of that. And then I'm using my Danish dough whisk, which the recipe actually suggests to use one of these to beat these together. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so we're gonna add half a teaspoon of salt, and then calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla, so I'm gonna add that. And then almond extract is really strong, but it does taste good with like shortbread type dishes, so I'm just gonna probably add like a 1/4 teaspoon of that. And then I'm gonna leak it all over. Oh well. Okay, so then I'm gonna add my regular all-purpose flour and then 3/4 of a cup of almond flour. Okay, so this dough came together really nicely. I was gonna get out my food processor or my mixer, but I decided not to, and it worked out just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and grease my tart pan, and then we're gonna put about half of the crust mixture in there, and then the other half is actually gonna be saved for a crumble topping. So I was gonna actually use wax paper to pat this in, but I actually don't think I need it. There was like a dark thing in there. I was like, what is that? It's like a piece of an almond peel. Okay, so that was super easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in the oven. I have the oven set to 325 and I'm gonna bake this for 15 minutes. And then while that's baking, I'm gonna take the remaining crust mixture and pop that in the freezer so that it can chill, so that I can crumble it easier. All right, so here is our par-baked tart crust. So I'm gonna go ahead and spoon my raspberry jam on top, and we need 3/4 of a cup. So I'm just gonna eyeball it here with about 3 big spoonfuls. That should be about 3/4 of a cup. What's funny is I took this jam out of the pantry the other day and was gonna use it, and Adam saw it sitting out on the counter and then made an English muffin with it, so I had to stick it in the fridge. Now it says to kind of leave a little bit of an edge on the outside, so I don't know how even I'm gonna be able to make it, but we'll try. So we're gonna take the crust, and I basically wrapped this in wax paper, and then I just stuck it in the freezer while this was baking. And then basically we're just gonna take the rest of the dough and crumble it on the top. I'm like super excited to, to try this. All right, so I'm gonna put this back in the oven and bake it for about 25 minutes, and I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's done. All right, so doesn't this look beautiful. Here is our raspberry jam shortbread tart. This turned out way more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. So if you've never used a tart pan before, basically it has a removable bottom. So you just kind of pick it up out of there and then you can let it cool on your cooling rack. But yeah, I'm gonna let this cool until it's probably like just like maybe room temperature, maybe just a little bit warm. And then I have some sugar-free vanilla ice cream in the freezer that we're gonna have it with. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. As always, I appreciate your support. Don't forget to check out that discount on Green Chef. The link will be in the description box below. You can get $100 off across your first 4 boxes, plus free shipping on the first box. I love their meal kit service. It is definitely one of the best, especially if you are trying to eat as per a certain lifestyle. Let me know in the comments below which recipe you are going to try. If I recommend any, it would definitely be the raspberry shortbread tart. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.